I've been thinking about this, I don't know whether it's a mental factor or not, but it's called familiarity. And Venerable uses it quite a bit in her teaching when we get into difficult parts of the Buddha's teachings. And so it's something that I've been trying to cultivate because there are certain aspects of the Buddha's teachings that I find my mind has a lot of resistance to. And I've been wanting to try to figure out how I can use it to deepen my practice. So I've been thinking about the things in my life due to conditioning, due to karma, and people and culture and my religious background told me things, had me repeat things in my mind, after a while I started believing them. In the beginning I didn't, but later on I did. And some of these things were very good things, and some of these things were not so good things, about qualities that I, like, you're not worth much, or you're a sinner, or you're flawed inherently forever, and things like that. And so because it was told to me and I started saying it to myself through the process of familiarity, I started believing in my mind that that was true. And so part of practicing the Dharma is when we get to things like renunciation and bodhicitta, emptiness, is that they're teachings that for me, I can barely wrap my mind around them intellectually, that I have a Buddha potential that will over lifetimes finally manifest in an omniscient mind of the Buddha. So, and Venerable keeps always encouraging us to just continue to practice, continue to, as contrived and sort of fake as it may sound, is that through the process of continually reminding ourselves, reciting to ourselves, thinking about certain parts of the Buddha's teachings that are difficult for us, that after a while the mind begins to understand and it begins to believe, and then after a while it's like there's no, it's believable, and that there's no doubt. So I've been trying to use some of the cultivating the positive qualities of the 6 far-reaching practices and about bodhicitta, which I find is a huge concept for me that I cannot even put my head around. But what I'm doing is trying to use familiarity in a virtuous context to try to counteract a lot of the negative self-talk and conditioning that I've had that gets in the way of me really understanding the Buddha's teachings, and also understanding and nourishing and taking care of my own good qualities. So if I've had most of my life that I'm basically flawed and that I'm a sinner and that I'm not worth much, I've got to use the positive potential, the fact that I have the Buddha potential within me and that I have compassion already in my heart and mind. I need to start saying that to myself and start thinking about that more deeply and reciting the prayers of aspiration, the prayers of bodhicitta, the altruistic intention over and over again to sort of replace this negative way of thinking that I've come to believe about myself. So as much as I thought, well, this doesn't work because I've been practicing for quite some time, but what it's trying to do is counteract lifetimes perhaps of a lot of negative ways of thinking that have been put into my mind through a lot of my own karma. And so in the past week or so, I've been using this, and I have found that when I get pushed up against some negative self-talk, if I think about the Buddha and I think of his qualities and I think that I can attain the same kind of mind and open my heart to greater compassion and loving kindness, I'm finding that it's finally starting to soften and make the space for myself. It's not very big, but I'm beginning to understand my teacher's encouragement on to continually show up, to continually practice, although you may not believe it deeply, it might even seem kind of fake and superficial, is that over time they become sort of the seeds that ripen in my own mind and qualities that will actually be cultivated, and an understanding of my own potential. And so I encourage folks, particularly when it gets to the blah, 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 the looking down on ourselves and doubting ourselves, is to start cultivating, even though it's kind of contrived, the good things about ourselves.